Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Paul, and Dan as we preview our EFL Round of 16 Cup match tomorrow evening against Bournemouth. And we are hopefully looking forward to a repeat of what happened last time. Maybe not the red card, but hopefully the result anyway. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you haven't already, just a bit of housekeeping. Please make sure to like and subscribe, help us reach that 10k amount. And if you have done that already, make sure that your notifications are on for all of our future streams and videos. We go live from 7:30 every evening, UK time. And any days that we have a game on, we also do a post-game stream if we have the time as well. Tomorrow, our main stream will be after the Bournemouth game. It won't be our regular 7:30 stream because the game starts 15 minutes after the stream would start. So we're just going to push it out a little bit. We also have our post-game stream this weekend for after the Luton game, so make sure you're around for that as well. So without further ado, we'll pass over to our panel mates. Paul, my friend, how are you? First time myself and yourself being on stream together. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. Looking forward to an easy game tomorrow and then continue winning on the weekend. I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. I'm looking forward to an easy game tomorrow as well. But I worry it may be a trap game purely because I don't want us to get complacent. That's my own opinion on it. That fair enough, we bet them 3-1 with 10 men last time. But at the same time, I don't want us to be complacent. I want us to be cutthroat. I want us to go and pump 4 goals past them, bring on all the youth guys and leave it at that. Before I go over to yourself, Dan, I just have to make this known. Jen, thank you so much for the 1999. That is absolutely fantastic. Again, funding our January transfer window as you did with our summer transfer window. And if it's anything like the summer transfer window, we're going to do very well. Thank you so much, Jen, for that. It's very much appreciated. It all goes back into the channel and it helps make more content for you guys. And yes, happy Halloween for everybody who is in the stream as well. Thank you so much for that, Jen. You're an absolute angel. Dan, off that little bit of a high, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm just enjoying the evening. I put all my sweets and stuff on the step, and you can just take them, ring the bell here.
Exactly, just to pin them to the door, leave a bucket outside, and just everybody take a fistful. And if it's gone, ring the doorbell, and I'll refill it and leave it at that. Don't like dealing with people and answering the door myself. I'm the exact same. So let's get into funding for Kev in the channel. Kev is very much appreciative of it. He's enjoying his retirement fund that you're currently paying into right now. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Jen. It is very, very much appreciated. So a couple of topics on what we're going to get into for today is who do we think is going to start? Because there's some question marks around it with fitness and obviously surprise to nobody in particular. Thiago is still out. So shocked there. Who's surprised by that at this stage that Weetabix Legs has been not in the game this time. So with that, I'll start with yourself, Dan. Do you think we see any surprises in our starting 11, or do you think this is going to be similar to a regular Premier League game that we'll just maybe see some of the second unit but most of the first unit, that we want to kind of get this game buried and done and dusted so that we can move on to playing Luton at the weekend? Because you could really consider them 2 fairly easy games on paper anyway.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm expecting us to probably be a little bit stronger than a lot of people are expecting us to come out. There will be changes. However, the jeopardy that comes with this game than, say, for example, the Europa League, which is next week's midweek game, is that this is we don't have a second chance if our second string get it wrong. So I think there's a good possibility that he puts out like a 70% team, one that's got a good blend of first team players and obviously some of our fringe lads. So I don't see players like Van Dijk playing. I don't see Alisson playing. I don't see Salah playing the whole game, but I do expect to see him probably like we have done in the Europa League, probably maybe second half, last 30 minutes, something like that. Just keep him sharp, get him in the goals, because at the end of the day, he's on one hell of a run of form at the moment for goals and assists. It's probably very likely that Curtis Jones will play. Gravenberch probably might get a rest. He looked like a bit leggy kind of at the weekend, playing 2 games. Hasn't had a lot of football recently. So I'm expecting to see Jones instead of Gravenberch, but we could, with the 5 subs, probably see just about everyone that we expect. To kind of within that first team, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Salah will make an appearance because I'd like to see Salah make an appearance. He is deadly against Bournemouth in their last 8 games. He has 8 goals and 1 assist. He loves playing against Bournemouth, so I don't doubt that. Paul, a question here that's come in from Gondo Boy. Gakpo has been reduced to the same level as an academy player, playing the EFL games and subbing during bum games. Captain at his previous team and is an underused asset. Need to start seeing him more on the left wing even. Do you agree with that? Do you think Gakpo is a little bit underused at the moment? I understand. In my own opinion, I think it's because Nunez is just unbelievably on hot form right now. Nunez has 16 goals and 16 goal contributions in all competitions so far this season. He's on track for 50 plus goal contributions this season. You run the hot hand, especially at the number 9 position. So if Nunez is the hot hand, you need to feed him. But at the same time, Gakpo's been kind of injured as well just the past couple of weeks. Do you see this as a bit of a pick-me-up game, this game and the game against Luton, hopefully at the weekend, to allow Gakpo to gain some confidence back and gain some fitness back?
Well, first of all, I expect Gakpo to start in this game. I don't think he's underused. Well, he has some injury problems, that's for sure. Secondly, we have probably the best front five we have had in probably as far as I can remember. And of that front five, if everybody's available, I think it's fair to say that Mo Salah and Luis Diaz are the locked on 2 to start. So therefore, you have 3 people competing for one position, the number 9. And Nunez seems to be grabbing that position for making it his own right now. He seems to have worked out the relationship with Mo Salah. So, I mean, 4 or 5 months ago, Gakpo was a starter. Now he has been relegated to, I would say, number 5. But that doesn't mean that he's not a valuable member of the team. It's just that we are so good on the front line that if you're not on top of your game, you could see yourself spend some time on the bench. But I expect Gakpo to start this tomorrow. We all know that Luis Diaz won't be available, and we pray for his family. I think that for Luis Diaz's position, I don't know if Gakpo will be one who will be stepping in on that left-hand side, or it could be Jota. But I think Jota is slightly ahead of Gakpo right now in the pecking order. So, yeah, that's how I see it. I think he's just the 5th of 5 great players that we have right now.
Yeah, I completely I agree, to be honest. It's just it's form related at the moment. Realistically, it's nothing got to do with the quality of the player himself. It's just at the moment, and I kind of feel a bit bad for him because he was played out of position at the start of the season because obviously we had the midfielders issues and everything like that. But this game, as Dan mentioned, we kind of need to get this game right. There's no second chances with this. So I would like to see Gakpo start in the middle and maybe Jota out left, and then Salah on the right, and maybe switch him out for Doak or maybe Harvey Elliott or something along the lines of that. Even start Harvey Elliott up there and bring Salah on just to keep his legs fresh for the weekend later on in the game if we're up 1 or 2-0 at that point. Here's hoping. But it's an interesting one because there's so many variables that you need to play into this, because if you think about it as well, we have an international break coming up, which after we play City at 12:30 again, unfortunately, and the likes of Darwin Nunez and our South American teammate and his South American teammates will be late coming back for that game, meaning they probably won't play. So these next 2 games are probably a great opportunity for Cody Gakpo to get his game legs back under him again, which is why I think he needs to start at least this game and a good chunk of minutes of the next game, because realistically we should be able to put our second unit out and beat Luton. That should realistically be able to be done. So I think Gakpo should at least play a big chunk of minutes between both games, at minimum 60 to 70 minutes each game.
Question for you, Dan. Question for you: where do you think is his best position? Is it out wide or through the middle?
It depends on the personnel. If Nunez isn't starting, in the middle, where he can play with his back to the goal, receive the ball, and play the Bobby Firmino role. If Nunez is there, I think he works well off the left, and then Nunez in the middle and Salah on the right. It also depends on who, if Nunez is playing on the right or what formation they're playing. But he's a very versatile player. I think he can play anywhere along that front 3 very similar to Diogo Jota as well. Both of them can play anywhere along that front three. So he's a bit of a positionless player, but I do think his best position would probably not be left wing, but like a left striker, if that makes sense. Like if there was two, if it was him and Nunez up there, I'd like Nunez on the right and Gakpo on the left. Gakpo can play sort of a very advanced 10 role, again, back to the goal, and he can just, for like a basketball term, he can post a guy up and receive the ball to his feet. He's great body control, great strength, and he can then turn and play the ball off that way. I think I think that's probably his best position. Dan, what do you think? Do you think it's in the middle, or do you think out in the wing would be Gakpo's best position? Because he has played left wing for his previous clubs.
Well, for PSV, his best position was the left-hand side. He scored a massive amount of goals for PSV whilst playing in that position. And when we first signed him, it didn't make an awful lot of sense to sign Cody Gakpo, as we already had a player on that left-hand side with Diaz, who was the starter, and Diogo Jota, who you would say was the kind of, the backup to that position. So what we've done is we've kind of developed him into the player that he sort of is now over 12 months near enough now that he's been at the club since January. He's capable of playing, like you've just said, sort of an advanced 10. In the Nottingham Forest game, what he was doing differently than what any of our other strikers are able to do was picking the ball up in midfield and driving with it. He can pick it up probably kind of in that 8 role, 10 role, and gets that ball and is able to then thread the balls out left and right. So he's sort of making his own role, and a role I believe has been allocated for him. He's not a Nunez, because only Nunez is capable of doing what he can do. Diaz is that atypical winger. If you wanted to draw one, he is one. He's thin, he's tricky, he's skillful, he's fast. He's full of all of the tricks. Gakpo doesn't quite have that. He's a little bit more, I don't know, it's hard to kind of explain. He's hard to describe as a player, as to what he's particularly good at. But what I did like to see is, even though his goal was not counted at the end of the Nottingham Forest game from being offside, he's starting to be that sort of box predator that we saw against Wolves. When he scored that goal just before he got taken off the pitch, and we ended up winning that game, and he scored our goal that levelled us. For me, Cody Gakpo is better in the middle of the park, just because of the other players that we already have. I would rather have Jota on the left-hand side cutting in, because he's really starting to make that position his own. And Diaz has clearly got that position tied up as soon as, what's going on with his family sorted out. So Gakpo for me through the middle. However, if it means minutes, I'm happy for him to play anywhere across the front line. He just needs to get some minutes back in the tank. He had an injury that could have been really serious, and thankfully it wasn't. And he's back a lot earlier than a lot of us were kind of, concerned when he left the Tottenham Stadium in that knee brace. So I'm just glad that he's here. He's getting the minutes. He's getting looked after, and we've got Bournemouth, Luton, and Toulouse, 3 games where he's more than capable of really racking up some minutes, which is really positive for us.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This is the time, especially prior to this next international break, where, and even the Brentford game as well, before the international break, you could get serious minutes in that game as well. I think it'd be pertinent and prudent to Klopp to just be like, okay, I have 4 games here that I can get Cody Gakpo basically back up to full match fitness before we go and play Man City, because he's going to be needed, because Nunez is going to be flying back unless he gets an injury before going. But Nunez doesn't seem like that kind of player that would that skip out in international duty.
What I would like is like obviously in the past, before the 5 subs came in, and also before we started playing a lot more minutes into extra time, we used to see 2 or 3 minutes. Anything above 4 or 5 was really quite rare. However, now it's incredibly common, which is right, because we want to see the football on the pitch more and less of it off the pitch. I think starting a game is less important than it used to be. It's not about always getting the start. It means that you're not involved in the team, and your second option is that sometimes we need to put in those players at the right time. And I think that because there's almost 2 50-minute halves to a game on average, that as you start the match, there's a very good chance that you'll maybe get very similar minutes to a player who starts more games than you. However, on the minutes basis, the 2 of you are very similar. So I think we're managing people's other players' sort of wants and needs, and they're buying into this, that it's not who starts, it's everyone that matters. It can be equally as important who finishes, never mind who starts.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a minute's point of view. That was a great question, Paul. Thank you for that. To the second point that I wanted to make, I think this may be a trap game, which to your point, Dan, of maybe putting out a 70% kind of a. You don't think so, Paul? You don't think this could be a trap game?
No, not with the squad that we have right now. We have a squad where we can basically pick a second 11 and it's still a very strong team. We haven't had this for many, many years. So if you look at the game, look at the starters against Forest. We can change our entire midfield for this game tomorrow and it's still a very strong midfield. We can change the front three and it's still a very strong front three. We can rest Van Dijk and Konate and with Matip, Gomez, Kwanzaa, and it's still a solid back four. Alisson, of course, is way better than Kelleher, but Kelleher will probably start for maybe 8-10 Premier League teams. So I think we have a very, very strong second 11. So any team that we put out there tomorrow, I think we would be better than Bournemouth.
Yeah,
so I'm not concerned.
No, it's maybe it's just me thinking like any given Sunday, that kind of a thing. It's just on any day a team can better you and things can just go wrong, and complacency is the root of all evil when it comes to professional sports. So to Dan's point, and I think they should pump out a team that's not 100%, but not play with them either, because a thing that we had it with Nottingham Forest before those extra goals went in is that like we seem to have been playing with our food, for lack of a better term. We needed to put that game away quicker because we were 2 goals is nothing in a Premier League game. We needed to put them away quicker, and that third goal was the dagger that done that. I think it needs to be something similar with this as well. We can't concede early, because we're playing away, so we're going to the Vitality Stadium. They're going to be up for it because they got a goal on us last time, and we were down to 10 men as well. It's just maybe it's just the cynic in me, or maybe the pessimist in me. That's just I'd like us just to get out ahead, kill the game in the first half, and coast to the finish line. But that's why I might think it might be a trap game. Dan, are you of a similar opinion, or do you think, similarly to Paul, that we should be comfortably beating these and it's not a trap game?
We should absolutely be comfortable in beating them on paper. My worries that I have with Bournemouth is twofold. One, they just got to win at the weekend. A little bit suspect the way that they got it. And it's amazing how a little bit of positivity can really affect going forward into such as a League Cup game, because this is a one-off for them. They know that they have nothing to lose. They lose the game tonight, there's no pressure on anyone. There's no pressure on the team. There's no pressure on the manager. It's just a match. You're playing Liverpool. You're expected to lose this game. But what that can happen is it can throw a bit of a curve. It can throw a bit of a situation, which I'm confident that we will be able to change the game anyway. I think, but I just don't want us to go too soft. I don't want us to go into a situation where it can be too many changes. We're getting a nice roll going with certain players who are playing in the Europa League, and we're getting players who you kind of didn't expect to be playing Europa League or League Cup matches and going into the Premier League as well, so which is fantastic. I think we'll absolutely get this job done, no problems at all. My only reason for me being so sort of not confident, it's more of a case of like it's a willingness for us to get this job done, is because this is a really good opportunity for us to win this. The draws have been quite kind, and we don't always get kind draws when it comes to the FA Cup or the League Cup. This is an opportunity, seeing as Man City are already out. We've got Arsenal, Newcastle, Manchester United, and Chelsea. They're the 4 teams who are in that kind of bucket for winning this as a favourite, unless it's going to be a big outsider. So for us, if the draw goes well in the next one, there's a very good potential that it's there for us to win this one. And a trophy's because we're not in the Champions League, let's go and get it. If the opportunity presented itself like it did in season before last to get there, we got there by accident almost. It was almost like, oh, wow, we ended up in the final. Let's take that opportunity if it presents itself and try and get another trophy, because a lot of these players deserve more than just one of each. I want to see multiple and seeing them win 2 of this and 2 of that and whatnot. That's how I see it. And our time's limited with these lads. And let's get them some trophies and get them some medals, you know, just to add to that kind of the quantity as well as the quality.
Yeah, the fixtures are as follows. Mansfield Town and Port Vale and Exeter and Middlesbrough, they're currently playing at the moment. Tomorrow, West Ham and Arsenal, Chelsea and Blackburn, Bournemouth and ourselves, Everton and Burnley, Ipswich and Fulham, Man United and Newcastle. I can see West Ham maybe knocking Arsenal out of that, considering... Look, this is just me spitballing. Like, there's bigger... There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 Premier League matches, essentially, tomorrow evening where a Premier League team is going to get knocked out of this competition. One way or the other. It's either going to be West Ham or Arsenal, or it's going to be Man United or Newcastle. 2 Premier League teams are getting knocked out tomorrow. So that thins the herd, as you mentioned, Dan, quite a lot for us. That'll then only leave Everton, Burnley, Ipswich, Fulham, Chelsea, Blackburn, Exeter, Middlesbrough, Mansfield, Port Vale. As you mentioned, City, who would have been the odds-on favourites realistically, are already gone. Arsenal struggled to beat Brentford in their last EFL game. Fulham just about bet Norwich. So, like, the EFL is a fantastic competition, similarly to the FA Cup, where it can cause upsets, which is why I worry it may be a trap game myself. Now, I have obviously my panel mates who think I'm being delusional, and it won't be a trap game at all. But it is something to consider, because I could very easily, if knowing how Chelsea are playing at the moment, Blackburn could fire 2 past them, and how leaky Arsenal are at the back, West Ham could put 1 or 2 past them. It's very, and that's like another Premier League team playing a Premier League team. So it could literally be 1, 2. We could lose a good few decent teams, and then we could end up, I think it'd be hilarious if it happened, playing the likes of an Exeter or a Port Vale or a Mansfield or a Middlesbrough, and that's essentially a week off at that point.
And there's a chance of that happening as well, Stephen. You know, when you look at the way those draws have rolled out, there's a 50-50 that we get a Premier League team or we get a League One or a League Two team. And, you know, I'll take that toss of the coin. And if fate is kind to us and we do get one of those, it's almost, as you say, it's a buy. It's an opportunity to play the younger lads and be able to, not all of them, but play again that 70% team. That means that we're kind of one step closer to Wembley. We're one step closer to it. And when we go to the is it still a 2-legged game for the semi-final, or has that changed?
No, I think they've changed it. I don't know if it's this season or next season. I think they're changing it, but I don't know if it's happening now or next season. But I'm not sure about that. Somebody can fact check me on that in the comments if they know.
Yeah, if we get to a semi-final and we are still doing the 2-legged one, I'm not 100% sure. I know it's changing either this season or next season.
Yeah.
But if that happens, I mean, you're going to back us any way to have a 2-legged match, you know, for us to get the job done when we're taking Anfield on the legs like we did against Arsenal. So for me, it's a great opportunity, and I think Jurgen Klopp and the way that some of the players are talking, like Szoboszlai in the interviews, I don't think it's just bluster and candor saying, "Well, we can win everything." Because
Did you see Szoboszlai's quote?
What's that, mate?
Did you see Szoboszlai's quote when he was asked about his Hungarian teammate that plays for Bournemouth? Did you hear what he said?
I'll go on. What did he say?
He better pray I'm not playing. I'm not joking. That's exactly what he said. He said, "You better pray I'm not playing." Jesus Christ.
More every day. Like, genuinely, he's won everybody over, not just on the pitch, but off it.
He won me over during preseason when they were doing the bleep test and the fitness test, and Trent was out on his legs, and Szoboszlai just jogged up beside him and was like, "Come on, we go for another one." And you could just see the look in Trent's face, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's going to be an absolute wonder kid."
It really, really is. It's exactly what we needed. We needed that injection. And I can tell you, I know the answers to why Jordan Henderson got off to Saudi Arabia. He didn't want any of that smoke. He was anything of this team, let's be honest.
Not a bit of it. Guy comes in wearing the number 8 shirt, the guy that he replaced, Jordan Henderson replaced, and has already won over the fans in less than 10 weeks. There was no competition there. So I'll ask yourself, Paul, sorry, go ahead, Dan. Apologies.
No, I'm saying he just took one look at him and thought, Saudi Arabia, I'm here. One-way flight to Riyadh, I'm gone.
Exactly. Paul, out of who's left out of those teams, who would you not like to see? So we have West Ham, Arsenal. Currently, to be honest with you, I'll just name the Premier League teams because I think none of the leagues. If you're happy with us playing Bournemouth, I don't think anybody else would pose a problem. So there's West Ham, Arsenal, Man United, and Newcastle. Is there anybody out of those four that you wouldn't like to see? Because realistically, I think we beat the rest of them.
Yeah, the one matchup that will probably give me a lot of fear or give me some pause is if we have to go to St James's Park to play Newcastle. Going to Old Trafford, I'm fine. I'm not scared of Arsenal. I think we're gonna beat them. West Ham, I mean, they are West Ham. We always beat them. So yes, we have beaten, and I know Eddie Howe has not yet had a win against Klopp, but that may not continue forever. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that Newcastle lose tomorrow, or if they don't, that's the one draw that I will want to stay away from. Anybody else with City out, I think we would be favorites anyway. But anybody else, I think would be very, very comfortable, including Arsenal for sure. I'm not scared of Arsenal. I think they are nowhere. I know their record is, but I don't think they're anywhere close to where they were at this time last year because of how they're playing.
Yeah.
No.
I think they're pretenders myself, to be perfectly honest with you, similarly to Spurs. I think they're both pretenders. Spurs getting knocked out very early in this competition as well. Is there anybody from that four that you don't want to see, Dan? Would you be similar in Paul's opinion that not wanting to go to St James's Park for that particular game? Considering now and then again, Nunez might just bang two more past them, but
with 10 men.
Paul's a really good point there. Actually, it's funnily enough the draw. Actually, it depends on which way it is. If it's at Anfield, I couldn't care less. I play all of them one after the other. To be totally honest with you, because I think we're capable of beating any of those. I genuinely do. Arsenal are a good team, but they're not as good as we are. But they're not. The only game that I wouldn't fancy away, including as Paul says, away at St James's on a night game, it would get a bit spicy, especially after what happened in the last time. They'd be well up for it. My one would be Stamford Bridge away. I just don't like playing at Chelsea's ground. There's just something about us and not getting great results at Stamford Bridge that just sticks in my mind. And that's the place that I would like to ignore. But if it's at Anfield, genuinely, if we come first out of the pot, I don't care. Just give me any of them, because to be honest with you, we'll beat any of them.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that Anfield is a fortress, similarly to how St James's Park and Stamford Bridge are fortresses in their own right as well. Old Trafford is a ruin of what it used to be. Hilariously, I put a tweet into the group chat earlier that this season so far, Man City have more expected goals at Old Trafford than Man United have so far this season, which I think is the funniest fucking stat I've ever come across in my life. I don't think the Emirates is all that much of a fortress, to be honest with you. It's just a big fancy stadium that's full of empty air. That's just my opinion on it. I don't think Arsenal are a scary team. I don't think they have the depth for the midweek games, and they're going to come falter in the final third. They'll fall again at the final third of the season. That's just how I think they'll go.
Way against us, doesn't he? He gets all up in his feelings and ends up making mad decisions. And there's a psychological point with Arsenal. I'd say completely another stream, but the reason for Arsenal is I just think it's mental. I think it's a mentality problem with them. Is that I don't think they believe they're as good as they think they are. They can get them done to a certain point, but the difference. We've seen it as Liverpool fans. We've seen it multiple times where we've got to a certain point, and you could just tell these lads just don't have that little bit of difference and means you're a winner. I don't see it with them at all at the moment. I just think they're a good team, but that's it. They're a good team.
They don't have an it factor. Saka just disappears in big games, and Jesus, I didn't realize the best team in England was in the Championship, but all right. That's Liverpool will win a wooden spoon. It's more than Leeds have won in the past while, but all right. Yeah, I don't fear Arsenal at all. Same as I didn't fear them last season. I knew they'd falter, and it's Arsenal just don't have the depth. I don't think they have quality depth. We, as Paul mentioned earlier in the stream, we've 2 starting 11s. Arsenal barely have one. Like, Partey is upset currently at his playing time at the moment, and there's other players that are not getting played properly. And as you mentioned, and Arteta has actually come out and said it as well, that when he's in Anfield, it's like another world. And when they were 2-0 up against us, we basically made them lose the league because they were shambles after that.
Mm-hmm.
The 2-0 up, and then all of a sudden somebody gets in Trent's face and it wakes Anfield up, and now it's 2-2 and you don't know what the fuck is after happening. Arteta was even in interviews where he said that at Anfield, and they're singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and all of a sudden there's red shirts everywhere, and he physically can't move, and it's just so mentally and emotionally draining. And he wanted to try and put a foot in for a tackle when he was playing, even wanted to try and put a foot in for a tackle, and his body wouldn't do it because just it felt as if he was tiny compared to the other players. So it's a fantastic fortress to have, and it's a great asset to have. It's like a 12th man, which I absolutely love, and European teams absolutely dread it. I'll revert back to years gone by of the Barcelona game when we were 3-0 down. The second that first goal went in, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the replays of it, but the second the first goal went in after Divock Origi scored it after the rebound from Henderson, you can see Philip Coutinho and Luis Suarez look at each other, and you could nearly see the fear in their face where they're like, oh, fuck.
It's funny, isn't it? You don't want to see some of these top players retire and these top managers retire because you want them to go on forever. We fall in love with the nostalgia of even managers and players of other teams. But what I do love is listening to them being able to talk freely after they've, left the country or left football altogether, and being able to just say it as it is, that, they try and say Anfield doesn't have this effect on you, it doesn't have this special atmosphere. And they all come out and they all say it. They all say it, without any pressure or any sort of bias towards it. They just say, that's where I don't want to play. Not one manager in Europe wants Liverpool in a European competition. They don't. They don't want it. As bad as we played last season, look what happened even with Real. I know it fell to pieces, but we still found a way to cause them an issue, for us to get the goals in there, and the noise got up, and in the end the quality let us down last season just because we were a shell of ourselves. But this time around, I think a lot of clubs are going to go, I don't fancy them. I think we're back to
it. Well, Pep has said that Anfield is the only place that he fears. He said that multiple times. And it doesn't matter how City is rolling, we always seem to have their number at Anfield. So goes without saying.
It really does. I was in work that night. I was working in a bar at the time, and the game was, and funnily enough, it was a Man United supporters club. The game beforehand, where we lost to Barcelona 3-0. United weren't in the competition at that time, and I've never seen so many United supporters coming in wearing a Messi jersey. Just kind of goes to show you their level of the club. Like, they all came in wearing a Messi jersey and then laughing on the way out, and then they all came back in for the second leg, and there's me ripping the Liverpool shirt on and running around a Man United supporters club, absolutely putting the piss out of every single one of them. It was beautiful. I loved every second of it. Something that actually, I think it was, to your point, Dan, of saying that no manager wants it and all the players have come out and said about it, is that Anfield itself, like Patrice Evra, when he was speaking with Rio, has said that Sir Alex Ferguson used to rest people the week before going to Anfield purely because of how physically, emotionally, and mentally taxing it was to play there.
But think about it. Think about Ferguson gave it that respect, didn't he? He knew it was different. He would tell these players that this isn't just any stadium. You're the best team in the world. They were at one point. And, even then, even though we weren't what we were, they still knew that they had to treat Anfield as a different game. They had to treat it differently. They had to approach it differently. As you say, having to rest players, or the mentality that had to be there. And it was a much bigger result for them, even when we weren't the top club that we are, back on perch as it was. So, yeah, it's nice to hear the honesty as well, because, being Manx, they could say what they fancied and say, no, it's not what it is. And, but they're telling the truth.
Yeah, it is that. It's a special place, and I'm glad that it's ours, is the way that I look at it, because it is.
What about the reverse, Stephen? Which away ground do you fear the most as a Liverpool supporter?
I used to fear Old Trafford purely because they were always up for the game. No matter the state of the teams, as Dan mentioned, it was both teams were always up for the game. It was a Liverpool and Man United. They're the biggest rivals in the Premier League, more than Man City and Man United, more than Liverpool and Everton, I'd argue, purely from a success standpoint. That it's just that used to be a fortress prior to the past couple of years, and now it's just kind of fallen apart. There's not anywhere specifically that I'd fear. I'd worry about the likes of a Stamford Bridge purely because of how enclosed everything is, and it feels very tight and it feels very small. Similarly, St. James's Park is quite the same. It's very tight, small, and compact. It's kind of like what Anfield is, but the opposite. But they'd be the only two I'd worry about. I don't necessarily fear anywhere in England, anywhere, or in the UK. Overseas, where am I thinking of? The old Camp Nou. Not to be, it's going to be the new Camp Nou now, which is going to be hilarious to say, and obviously the Bernabeu as well with Real and Barcelona. Those fans are on a different level than anything that we have anything that they have in the UK. They're just feral, to be perfectly honest, which is probably the best way to describe it. Outside of the UK, those two would be the only two places that I'd fear going. Yourself, Paul, is there anywhere that you'd fear similarly to St. James's and Stamford Bridge, or is there anywhere at all?
Well, sticking to the UK, I for some reason I just always don't like to watch games when we're playing at Villa Park. I don't know if it's our bogey away ground, but I just, probably because I hate Aston Villa teams so much, but I always worry about playing at Villa Park. Other than that, no. St. James's Park, yeah, but Newcastle has been out of the Premier League for such a long time that I've been forgotten about them until recently.
Yeah.
Old Trafford is like home away from home in the last few years, so I'm cool with them. So other than that, I really don't have much fear outside of those.
Yeah, I think there's no real fear in Old Trafford anymore. It's a shell of what it formerly used to be, and I'm living for it. I'm absolutely living for it. It's beautiful to watch that once impenetrable ground just crumble around them, and you have the likes of a Bruno Fernandes that's your captain, which I think we all had a great giggle about that in the group chat when it was announced. We were like, Jesus, this lad is your captain. God above. That's pathetic.
But there's nobody else. Who else can they give it to?
Rashford. They could have given it to the homeboy. They could have given it to the homegrown kid and been like, here you go, it's your team, go for it. But they gave it to the biggest whinge bag and crybaby that they could have. I've not played sport on a level the same as these guys, but I've done it on a competitive level. And if my captain or the leader of the team was acting in a way that he was acting, he'd be thrown out of the team. He'd be stripped of all responsibility, because if you're at that and you're doing all this stuff, it's absolutely, it's just pathetic, because you're acting like a petulant child. And Anthony is no different. Anthony is the exact same. I mean,
question for you, Stephen. Sorry to cut you.
Go on.
Manchester United best front three right now is Anthony, Rashford, and Højlund.
Yeah.
How many Premier League goals do you think all three have combined this year?
How many Premier League goals have all three combined? I think there's absolutely, pardon my French, Paul, it's absolutely fuck all of them. There's no, Anthony hasn't scored. Rashford has probably maybe one or two. And Højlund, I think, only has his Champions League goals, maybe one in the Premier League. I'd say less than five.
That's it. I think it's one Premier League goal from the front three. One.
Jesus.
One.
That's absolutely pathetic.
That's hilarious.
Oh.
85 million to play for Anthony, I think. Something like that.
100 million euro, 85 million pound. Yeah, I made the joke in the group chat, and I don't know if I should make it here, because I think that's more for private.
Go on.
I don't want to. Oh God! If he attacked the open space and attacked the ball like his ex-wife, he might score a couple of goals. But that's my opinion on him as a player. He's a scumbag, and he showed his true colors, absolutely hacking the shins out of Doku, and then Doku waving his finger and him throwing his arms about like a little child. I think he's just an absolute. He's a waste of a footballer. He's robbing a living, and he doesn't deserve the privilege that he has to be able to play for a club like Man United.
There's something which actually was, recently, I don't know, you've seen in like Twitter and on the media, there's like Liverpool's kind of has this no knobhead policy, where like, I would say that's right. I think we have a team of people and a team of players and manage, the coaching staff. Everyone seems sound. From the look at everyone looks like they're nice. They've got a good atmosphere. They've got a good, sort of bit of banter. They seem like decent people on and off the pitch, not just what you see in, in the media and like, the controlled stuff. They just seem like a bunch of, they don't get involved in nonsense. But what made me laugh is that Man United appears to have built its success on a team of knobheads, kind of thing. That's where they've gone with it. And they have got a number of players who just seem to have a bad attitude, and it's gone on for years. Anthony never struck me as somebody who was worth even close to the price tag they paid. Yeah. And media, when you got Gary Neville kind of playing both sides of the court when he's saying that, well, it's the Glazers' fault for signing off on the £85 million. Well, do you know what, Gary? If they'd said no to it, you'd have said they weren't backing the manager. So which one is it? You can't have both. That is Ten Hag's player. At the end of the day, that was his choice. He made a big deal over, well, we're going to sign him, we're going to sign these players, and it's all going to be football decisions. Ed Woodward's gone and all that kind of, jazz when he came in. Well, if that's the case, then he had the power to choose the players. They signed off on them. And it turned out that a player who scored less than double figures in the Eredivisie wasn't going to score any more in the Premier League. It's beyond me. He even thought he was even close to that value. Never mind 85 million.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how they've done it, but they've really gone backwards in how they've done their scouting, and it's okay to blame. Like, yeah, so why? Yeah, this is a beautiful comment. What I was about to bring up. Why didn't the Glazers man Mark Haaland and leave him open at the back post on Sunday? Look, you can blame. The Glazers blame only holds so much water until you realize that, and Jamie Carragher brought up a fantastic point, and Gary Neville just kind of brushed to the side, that Ten Hag has been there for 18 months. He's not instilled any sort of philosophy or style of football. And you take a look at Ange Postecoglou, and he's not even there 6 months, should I say, and he's already instilled a style of football into them. De Zerbi as well has instilled a style of football into Brighton, even though they're not doing as well as they were last season as of this moment. You can see a style of football there. It's just, as you mentioned, Dan, a bunch of knobheads running about a pitch. There doesn't seem to be any style at all in them. And I think I genuinely am in full belief that United will just collapse. I don't think we'll ever see them back at the height that they were again. The Glazers wanting £10 billion. It's ludicrous. And Sir Jim coming in and just paying Sir Jim coming in and paying 1.4 billion into the club. It's just spinning the wheel. And I'll say this as a neutral fan and as a Liverpool fan, is that it's sad because we may never have that rivalry with Man United again, and eventually, like, if our kids and our grandkids will be like, "Oh, who's Man? Why are Man United such a big hot topic with Liverpool fans? Sure, they're terrible." Like, and they'll never have lived through the likes of the games that we seen play against them and watched the downfall and watched us, even when we were at our lowest, beating them at Anfield or beating them at Old Trafford. It's a sad state of affairs, but at the same time, God, is it fun to watch. It's beautiful to watch. A couple of things that I wanted to point out about our game against Bournemouth tomorrow. Before I do that, though, I do want to ask everybody, if you haven't already, please do make sure to like and subscribe. Help us hit that 10K mark, but hopefully before the next transfer window. It's very much appreciated. And if you have done that already, we love you very much. Thank you so much. And make sure to have your notification bell on for all of our future streams and videos. We'll be live straight after the game tomorrow evening. And we're live from pretty much every day outside of a game day at 7:30 UK time. We will have our regular Thursday stream, our regular Friday stream. We'll have a match preview on Saturday, and then we'll have a post-game stream on Sunday after the game. I believe the game is at 2:30, or is it 4:30?
4:30.
I'll check now. We'll check now in 1 second. I just want to make sure. We'll go back. Where is Liverpool's fixtures? 4:30 Sunday. So we'll have a stream probably about the 6 p.m. mark, maybe 6:30, and then we'll immediately have our 7:30 stream on Sunday evening as well. So make sure you have the bell notification on for all of that. We'll have some other videos out as well. We'll have some predicted 11, some demos doing a Liverpool 2.0 video. That's I'm very looking forward to as well. I just posted today our new segment, in case you missed it, where we recap all of the previous week's news, the bigger news and the games, and review it, everything in a quick time frame. So that if you don't have the time to sit and watch us for an hour a night, every night of the week, you can have a quick little snippet of the biggest bits of news during the week in like a 5-minute, 10-minute video. So hopefully everybody likes them. Now, just a couple of topics on the game itself. As I mentioned, Salah has 8 goals and 1 assist versus Bournemouth. So hopefully we can see him actually show out and get a couple more. And hopefully he can just pump a few past them, to be honest with you. It'd be nice just to kill that game off very early. Out he goes, scores a hat-trick in 10 minutes, and then clocks out and goes hits the ice bats. The other thing as well is why I think it might be a trap game, more to revert back to the previous point, is we've only had 1 loss against Bournemouth since 2016, and that was last year, where we lost 1-0 against them away from home. We've also scored 2 or more goals in every single game that we've played against them, bar our loss last year. So the odds are stacked in our favor that this could be a very easy win, as both you and Dan have mentioned, Paul. But I still have this sneaking feeling that it's going to be a trap game. It's just... Did
we put 9 past them last year? Was it Bournemouth?
Yes. We put 9 past them and then lost 1-0 later in the year.
Oh, yeah.
We lost 1-0 after we beat United 7-0, by the way. So
yeah.
But that was last season's. That was, I mean, that was not a result that stood out. Unfortunately, we lost to almost everyone away from home last season. It felt like every time we went away from home, it was like, yep, we're going to lose again. And we did. Yeah, I predicted it. Said we'll win this game and then we'll lose to Bournemouth. It's just how we were. The only consistency we had last season was being inconsistent. You couldn't rely on us to do anything. We were capable of scoring 9 and 7 and then losing to, relegation. It's ridiculous.
I think we also missed a penalty in that 1-0 loss, didn't we? I don't know. I just think we're going to have a strong team. My suspicion is that we will see Salah starting. I think Klopp is going to go fairly strong and try to put the game to bed by halftime and then make a substitution. I mean, I feel good about this game. Maybe I'm a little bit too optimistic, but I like this midfield that we have. And even with Endo, Jones, Elliott as my predicted midfield, I think we'll have too much for them.
Yeah,
I think so as well. One last point that I'll bring up, and I'll ask both of you guys about it before we finish up, is Jamie Hughes's point here. Trent Cone-Doherty has signed his first Liverpool contract as an Irishman. It's very nice to see. I quite like it. He's been training with the senior team. I think it will be a perfect opportunity, maybe not against Bournemouth, but maybe against Luton at the weekend, to see him make his full senior debut. Where, Paul, would you like to see him make his senior debut? Against Bournemouth again in the EFL, maybe against Toulouse next week in the Europa, or maybe against Luton this weekend? Even if he doesn't appear, maybe he comes in for a cameo at the end, but it'd be nice to see him on the senior team.
I don't see Klopp as a sentimental coach. I see Klopp as a guy who just think about winning first. He's not trying to make a point by playing a 17-year-old just for the sake of playing a 17-year-old. I think we're going to see these young players later on after we have qualified for the Europa League. I think we should qualify with 2 games to spare. Then we will see the likes of these young guys. He may make the bench because we probably won't have Luis Diaz, so just to make up numbers. But I would be very surprised if we see him before the Europa League qualification has been all settled.
Are you of a similar opinion, Dan? As like with the Europa League this year, if we finish top of our group and we're fully secured in finishing in top of our group, we miss out on 2 extra games because the round of 32, we go straight to the round of 16 because the round of 32 is played between the second place teams in the group, along with the rejects from the Champions League. More than likely going to be Newcastle and Man United going to be coming down from those particular things. Are you in agreement with Paul? You'd like to see him and some of the younger guys, maybe even Trey Neone, come in and play some first team minutes during those gimme games, so to speak?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think that you gained out. He could well be part of the team that travels down to Bournemouth, and this is something which is possible with me saying that I don't think we'll see Alisson and I don't think we'll see Van Dijk. There's a good chance that maybe they don't travel just because it's such a long way down to the south coast. Is it worth taking them if you're not going to even play them? There's no possible way that certain players are going to play. So there could be some bench options for our young lads to come in there. I'm made up for him. He's played really, really well in the under-21, so he deserves that contract. And it's nice to see these young lads making their way through and getting into the first team and getting the contracts, because it shows we're doing something right. If we weren't getting these lads into our first team, and then that would be a big issue. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I think when we get the job done against Toulouse away from home, we qualify automatically at the top of the group. Probably there we'll see some wholesale changes in those last two games, especially in the Anfield game against Lask. I think we could see quite a number of changes possibly. Just in front of Anfield, in front of the home crowd, just really kind of give them a bit of a taste for what's possible. If they keep working hard, there's a big team in front of them that they can get into.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I'd like to see, maybe it's just a selfish Irishman in me, that I'd like to see another Irishman out in the pitch with them along with Caoimhín Kelleher. It'd be beautiful to see two Irish players out with Liverpool, and something that kind of brought a tear to my eye the last time Caoimhín Kelleher was playing is that he got the captain's armband by the end of the game, which I thought was actually quite nice. It warmed my cockles a little bit.
Is Bazuma better than Queeve?
No, he's not. Bazunu isn't better than Caoimhín.
So why is Kelleher not starting for your country?
Bazunu has first team minutes, which is why I selfishly wanted Kelleher to leave this summer, but also selfishly didn't want him to leave, because he deserves, as you mentioned, he could start for 9 or 10 Premier League teams. And if he knows at this, I think he's gone next summer anyway, but he knows that there's going to be a change in manager with Ireland at the moment. Stephen Kenny isn't a manager. He's a League of Ireland manager, which is essentially a League One manager. You can't have that coaching a national team. It's just not, it just won't work. There was no, similarly to Ten Hag, there was no style of football. It was very much sit back, attempt to counterattack, and not play to players' strengths and just kind of force it. It just wasn't enjoyable football to watch, unfortunately. But with the likes of Gavin Bazunu, Caoimhín Kelleher, Evan Ferguson, Trent Cohn-Doherty, there's a number of young players that are coming through now, and a number of young players that are in the squad at the moment that will be able to come through under a proper manager that can develop them. So hopefully that happens. But to answer your question, I don't think Bazunu is better than Kelleher. I think Bazunu is getting the start purely because he's having first team minutes, and it wouldn't exactly look great for a national team to be starting a backup over a first team player. And I get it. Bazunu is a fantastic keeper in his own right, but I think Kelleher is just a more all-round, more modern keeper, can use his feet, can save with his feet, can play with his feet, the whole lot. And I think Kelleher knows there's blood in the water right now, and that he can get into this national side and secure his number one spot there if he goes and gets first team minutes at another Premier League squad, because it'd be a horrible indictment of him to be a first team goalkeeper for a Premier League squad and be beaten out by a Championship squad first team goalkeeper. So I think he's gone next summer. Give us 30 million for him, I'll be happy with it. Selfishly, I wanted him to leave already, but that's more so because it would have furthered his development into the national squad number one. But that's my own opinion on it. But yeah, it hopefully everything works out for him. But Football Flashback mentions his starting 11 here: Kelleher, Gomez, Matip, Kwanzaa, Chambers, Endo, Jones, Gravenberch, Harvey, Darwin, Gakpo. That's an interesting one. Where I'd have Gakpo in the middle and put Darwin out to the right and Harvey, or I'd even have that's a mad front three. That's a front three that can be anywhere.
Right, it'd be Darwin on the left, Gakpo in the middle, or Gakpo on the left, Darwin in the middle, because you can kind of interchange. They are suited to those positions. Harvey can play on the right, but I've never seen it once where he's convinced me that he can play on the front. He's just not fast enough. Yeah. He's also.
Yeah, I like the chamber shout. I do quite like that, and the Endo one as well, along with Kwanzaa. I'm absolutely ecstatic with Kwanzaa. He saved us £60 million just by him coming through, and it's beautiful to watch. With that though, guys, we're coming up on the hour, so we are going to leave it there and let everybody go and enjoy their Halloween night. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you everybody that's commented. Thank you everybody that's liked and subscribed. And to Jen, as always, thank you so much for funding our January transfer window and Kev's retirement fund. It's very much appreciated, and it all goes back into the channel to make sure that we make better content for you guys. And if you haven't done so already, just the last bit of housekeeping, make sure to like and subscribe and help us hit the 10,000 subscribers. And if you've done that already, make sure your notifications bell is on just for all future streams and videos. We'll be back again tomorrow after the Bournemouth game, hopefully with a happy head on us with a victory. We'll then be on Thursday and Friday and Saturday with our normal 7:30 streams. And on Sunday, we'll have a post-game stream following our game against Luton and our regular Sunday night 7:30 stream as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us. From myself, from Paul, from Dan. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow after the game.